Star Wars Battlefront 2 has been through quite the journey over the years. From having a terrible launch and reception because the game was full of microtransactions, then removing microtransactions and getting consistent updates, to free new game modes, maps, and heroes, and Battlefront 2 being labeled as a great comeback story. Then the game suddenly loses live service, and the team at DICE are moved over to Battlefield 2042, which we all know how that turned out. Great going, EA. It's such a tragic story for Battlefront 2 to make such a great comeback and turn out to be a really good Star Wars game, just for it to be abandoned for one of gaming's greatest disasters that is already dead within a year. Especially when Battlefront 2 still had so much potential, like they were just scratching the surface with the amount of content that could be added. So Battlefront 2 was cut off for a game that people have already stopped playing. This, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the many reasons I was so concerned when I first found out EA had exclusive licensing to Star Wars games for a decade. Luckily, that time is finally coming to an end and we'll start getting more Star Wars games from different companies, but the damage was certainly done. And don't get me wrong, EA made some decent Star Wars games. Battlefront 2 and Jedi Fallen Order were good, but considering they had a decade and that's all they have to show for it, when back in the early 2000s we were getting like multiple great Star Wars games every year. But anyways, enough about EA for now. I made a full review on Battlefront 2 back in February of 2021, so well over a year now, and it's already been over 2 years since live service from Battlefront 2 was cut. And I remember in that review saying the future of the game was pretty uncertain and that it would most likely slowly die out over time, even though us Star Wars fans are some of the most dedicated and passionate around. I hadn't really played this game since that review in 2021, and I was really curious what the game was looking like. Are people still playing it? How difficult is it to find an online game in 2022? Well, like I said, Star Wars fans are extremely dedicated. I mean, you still got some people playing the classic Battlefront 2 consistently, and I was very surprised to find out that the game is still very much alive on PC. I was finding games for Capital Supremacy and Heroes vs. Villains pretty quickly. Now granted, some of the other modes may be a little harder to find matches for, but those are the two main modes people usually play, and it was really nice to see there's still people playing the game. Now I can't speak for the player base on consoles, but I would imagine it's around the same, if not more active, since more people play on consoles than PC. But if the player base was something you were worried about, whether you were thinking about returning to this game or trying it for the first time, the game is still alive. And I think it has such a dedicated and hardcore community that it may stay that way for a while, until of course EA decides to pull the plug on its servers. Of course, the game is still a lot of fun as well. Obviously, no new updates or content is a bummer, and the game may eventually get old for some people without anything new. Like for me, this was fun to come back to and play around with for a bit, but I don't think it's the kind of game where I could go back to playing it on a daily basis. But like I said earlier, the gameplay and all the heroes and classes were updated and changed a lot throughout the years, and it ended in a pretty good place. There's still some bugs, of course, but it's in a far better state than it was on launch. And I've been with this game through thick and thin. I even pre-ordered it, and I never pre-order games, so that just speaks to how hyped I was for this game. And almost 5 years later, here I am. I thought maybe EA would finally see reason after the riots of them cutting live service erupted, and then apparently DICE pitched a Battlefront 3, which was turned down, as EA wants them focused on the next Battlefield once again, because they didn't learn their lesson the first time. Yeah, and then the salt on the wound was hearing that the team was working on making Ahsoka and Ventress heroes in the game and adding Mustafar as a map. I honestly don't understand. A Battlefront 3 would sell extremely well. There's so many more Star Wars planets and characters to add, especially if they start pulling from Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, Rebels, Bad Batch, Boba Fett. There's so much more they could do. As great and fun as the new Battlefront 2 was, the classic still had so much more content. So EA is still as stupid as ever. At least we're still getting a Jedi Fallen Order sequel, but it really is such a missed opportunity with the Battlefront IP, not only for the players to finally get that one massive, inclusive, definitive Star Wars game, but for EA as well, who would get so much money from that. But anyways, to answer the title of the video, yes, I do think this game is still worth playing in 2022. It's still fun, the player base is surviving despite all of EA's efforts to write this game off. It keeps on living. So if you've been thinking of returning to it, or maybe trying it for the first time, I'd say go for it. Of course, get it on a good sale or for cheap if you don't already own the game, because it goes on sale quite a lot now. Or you could even go with an EA Play subscription. It's like $5 a month and you get a bunch of games including Battlefront 2, so that would be a good way to try it out if you're not sure you fully want to buy the game itself. But let me know in the comments what you guys think of Battlefront 2 and if you think it's still worth playing in 2022 and what you're hoping for in the future of Star Wars games. I can't say I'm that thrilled about a company like Ubisoft having a crack at it, but you know what? I'll take anything at this point. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you considered leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you're new. And other than that, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day, everyone.